Madison Garcia, 31, leaned against the polished kitchen counter of her Seattle condo, staring at the sunlight bouncing off the hardwood floor. The apartment was hers, fully paid for years before Andrew Robinson moved in. Her inheritance from her late grandmother had made that possible. She had loved the space, filled it with memories, and shared it willingly with someone she thought would be part of her life for good. But love, she was beginning to realize, sometimes came with blind spots. 3.5 years ago, Andrew had moved in, between jobs and struggling to find his footing. Madison had suggested it. "I've got room. You can stay until you get back on your feet." She hadn't imagined the years stretching into a pattern she would one day regret. She remembered the breakup vividly. It had been a Tuesday night in July. Andrew had looked unusually serious, holding a box of his things. "I think we've grown apart," he said softly. "I need to find myself, figure things out on my own." Madison had nodded, swallowing the sting. She helped him pack, called movers, and drove him to his new apartment. Everything had felt civil, almost like a mutual, if painful, agreement. She told herself she was strong, supportive, but beneath it, a nagging uncertainty lingered. A month of silence passed. Then, on August 19th, her phone buzzed with a message that made her stomach drop. "Hey, we need to talk about money." Madison's first instinct was confusion. Money? They hadn't argued about finances in months. "I lived with you for almost 4 years, Madison. You owe me half of your savings. We were common law married." Her hands tightened around the phone. Common law married? Washington didn't even recognize that. She stared out the window at the city below, blinking as if the words might disappear. What? "Andrew, we weren't married, and I paid for everything, all of it," she typed, her fingers trembling. "You contributed minimally. Utilities, groceries, your car insurance, even your phone bill. I covered everything else. Emotional labor, cooking, cleaning. That doesn't give you a legal claim to my savings." The reply was immediate and insistent. "I'm telling you, you owe me. We'll settle legally if needed." Madison felt a cold weight in her chest. It wasn't just betrayal, it was premeditated. 2 days later, the letter arrived. Not a simple email, but a formal lawyer's notice. Andrew was suing her for $47,000, claiming unjust enrichment. Madison reread the words, her vision blurring. 4 years, covered in love and effort, reduced to numbers on a page, with her affection weaponized against her. She called her attorney, Greg, a man she trusted implicitly. He had helped her with the condo purchase years ago. His voice was calm, analytical, almost soothing. "Do you have records?" he asked. "Every single one," Madison said, her voice tight. "Every bank statement, every receipt, every Venmo transaction." Greg didn't flinch. "Good, let's bury him." The discovery process began in late September. Madison spent evenings meticulously organizing 4 years of transactions. Grocery receipts, utility bills, insurance payments, credit card statements, even small Venmo notes to Andrew. One June transaction, $200 for groceries, still had his playful reply, a cat blowing a kiss emoji. She felt a flicker of disbelief mixed with bitter humor. How could someone so familiar suddenly turn adversarial? Andrew's submissions were laughably sparse. 3 minor payments totaling $225 over 4 years. Madison stared at the documents in disbelief, her pulse quickening. Every fiber of her being screamed that this wasn't just a dispute, it was manipulation. She spent nights replaying their life together. The dinners she paid for, the vacations she funded, the bills she covered while he focused on his hobbies and ambitions. And now he was claiming half of her hard-earned savings. Her heart tightened at the injustice. The settlement conference was set for October 4th. Madison arrived with Greg, a quiet determination settling over her. Andrew walked in, confident, smirking slightly as though he owned the room. Madison sat tall, her gaze steady, masking the nervous churn in her stomach. Philip, the mediator, began with calm authority. "Ms. Garcia, you're claiming unjust enrichment based on cohabitation. Can you outline your financial contributions to the household?" Madison didn't hesitate. She spoke clearly, methodically, detailing every payment, every expense, every financial sacrifice she had made. Her words carried a quiet strength, a voice shaped by love and betrayal. Andrew's response was defensive but vague. Cooking, cleaning, emotional support. When pressed about finances, he faltered. The veneer of entitlement cracked. Madison could see the panic rising behind his eyes, a foreshadowing of his collapse. Greg slid the documentation across the table. 42 months of detailed records, tracing every cent she had spent. Andrew's face turned red. He whispered to his lawyer, then asked for a private break. The air in the room seemed to freeze. 15 minutes later, they returned. Andrew looked drained, defeated, even a little ashamed. "I would like to withdraw my claim," his lawyer said quietly. Madison exhaled, a mixture of relief and lingering disbelief washing over her. But even in victory, a tiny spark of unease remained. Something about the ease with which Andrew tried to manipulate the truth felt familiar, like a pattern she hadn't yet recognized. For now, she was safe. The lawsuit was over. But deep down, Madison sensed that this wasn't just a one-time betrayal. It was the beginning of something she would have to untangle carefully, piece by piece. The weeks after Madison filed her documents were relentless. Every evening, her condo became a fortress of paper and digital files. Her laptop hummed with spreadsheets, PDFs, and scanned receipts, carefully labeled, color-coded, cross-referenced. Madison pored over the evidence as if her life depended on it. In a way, it did. Greg had warned her, "This isn't just about money, it's about narrative control. Whoever tells the truth convincingly will win. You have the truth. You just have to show it clearly." Madison nodded, though inside, her mind replayed every moment she'd shared with Andrew. The dinner parties she'd hosted, the weekend trips she'd arranged, the nights she'd stayed up nursing him through colds, the mornings she'd paid bills before he even opened his eyes. All of it counted. In her heart, she knew that. But could the law see it? When the settlement conference began, Madison felt a tension coiling in her chest. Andrew walked in, casually confident, a grin barely hidden. His lawyer, a sharp, poised woman named Andrea, followed, whispering instructions that Madison couldn't hear but could almost imagine. Philip, the mediator, started with the basics. "Ms. Garcia, you claim Andrew Robinson was unjustly enriched during cohabitation. Can you outline your financial contributions?" Madison took a breath and began. She spoke clearly, methodically. Mortgage payments, HOA fees, utilities, groceries, car insurance, phone bills, vacation costs, every expense meticulously documented. Her voice carried quiet authority. No anger, only precision. She made it impossible to deny the reality of her generosity. Andrew leaned back, feigning confidence. I contributed too. Emotional support, household management, cleaning, cooking. I made your life livable. Philip raised an eyebrow. Financial contributions? Andrew faltered, hesitated. I don't know, a few hundred here and there, maybe. Greg, calm but cutting, slid the massive folder across the table. 42 months of records. Every Venmo transfer, every credit card statement, every grocery receipt meticulously logged. Madison's heart pounded, not with fear, but anticipation. This was the moment of truth. Andrew's face turned crimson as Greg began to outline the sparse nature of his contributions. $225 total over 4 years. 3 minor payments, a dinner here, a gift there. Every other expense covered entirely by Madison. Andrea leaned over, whispering urgently into Andrew's ear. His defiance faltered. His smugness crumbled into something close to panic. I need a break, he said abruptly, standing. Greg turned to Madison, mouthing, "We won." 15 minutes later, they returned. Andrea's posture was rigid, tired. Andrew looked pale, ashamed. "Ms. Garcia," Andrea said carefully, "my client would like to withdraw his claim. No settlement. He will cover his own legal fees." Relief crashed over Madison in a wave. She had expected satisfaction, but this felt surreal. All the fear, the anxiety, the nights spent cataloging receipts, they had led to this quiet, decisive victory. Yet, even as the papers were signed, Madison felt a flicker of unease. The ease with which Andrew had attempted to claim her savings lingered like a shadow. Something about him, the calculated audacity, the sudden panic, felt familiar, almost rehearsed. Back in her condo that night, Madison poured herself a glass of wine and sat by the window, watching the city lights. She thought about the years she had shared with Andrew, the laughter, the love, the small betrayals she had ignored. Victory was sweet, but the memory of being blindsided lingered. Greg had warned her that this might not be the end. Patterns repeat, Madison. Keep your guard up. Document everything always. She promised herself she would, but at the time, she allowed herself a rare, quiet smile. For the first time in weeks, she felt like herself again, capable, resilient, and legally vindicated. Yet deep down, a small voice whispered, sometimes winning the battle didn't mean the war was over. Madison thought the storm had passed. Andrew's withdrawal, the signed papers, the legal fees, everything should have been behind her. Yet that calm shattered with a single Instagram message from a stranger. Hey, you dated Andrew Robinson, right? The name was unfamiliar, but something in the tone sent a chill down Madison's spine. She hesitated, then replied, Yeah, why? He did the same thing to my sister, the reply came. Lived together for years, contributed almost nothing, then demanded money when it ended. Thought you should know. Madison froze, her mind racing. Another victim? It didn't make sense, and yet it did. The woman who had contacted her introduced herself, Rachel. She explained that Andrew had done this before with Rachel's younger sister and two other women she knew. Madison felt a cold dread settle in her chest. She began digging. Old Facebook profiles, LinkedIn contacts, mutual friends, patterns emerged. Names, dates, circumstances. Every woman Andrew had lived with faced the same narrative. Paid little, contributed minimally, then claimed entitlement. Emma, Rachel's sister, confirmed it on the phone. Andrew? He tried it with me, too. Same story. Lived together, I paid for nearly everything. Then suddenly, I owed him for shared life. I just gave him the money to make it stop. Madison felt sick. 3, 4, 5 people, all trapped in the same manipulation. The realization was terrifying. This wasn't about love. It was about a calculated scheme. Her internal monologue churned with disbelief and anger. How could someone she loved, someone she trusted, repeat such a pattern? How could a person turn intimacy into leverage, affection into currency? The thought made her stomach twist. She reached out to other former partners, cautiously. Ava, a woman who'd dated Andrew before Emma, confirmed the same pattern. Moving in, paying almost everything, being sued or pressured for money afterward. Madison's emotions were a storm. Betrayal, moral outrage, fear, disbelief. Each confirmation of Andrew's pattern made the past years feel like a carefully constructed lie. And yet, somewhere under the shock, a simmering resolve began to form. Madison wasn't going to be another statistic. She would learn everything she could, document it, and protect herself, and perhaps prevent Andrew from doing this to someone else. Late that night, she sat at her kitchen table, illuminated by her laptop screen. Receipts, bank statements, and screenshots were scattered like battlefield evidence. Her apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a war room. She felt anger, yes, but also clarity. She understood the pattern. She could see it now, and with that understanding came power. Madison realized that Andrew's panic during the settlement wasn't just fear of losing, it was a habit breaking down. His carefully cultivated persona of entitlement and charm was nothing more than a mask he wore with every victim, and now she could see behind it. The final thought that lingered in her mind as she closed her laptop: patterns repeat, but once you know the pattern, you can break it. Madison had learned the hard way that victory in court didn't always mean peace. The restraining order, though reassuring on paper, was only part of her battle. She installed a Ring doorbell, changed her routines, and informed building security about the potential threat. Every knock at the door, every unfamiliar face in the lobby, made her heart race. Then came the email from an unknown address. You destroyed my life. Madison read it slowly, her hands trembling. The email blamed her for Andrew's failures, claimed she had manipulated him, and threatened a kind of vindictive justice. But Madison was no longer the same person who had helped him pack his boxes. She forwarded the email to Greg, who immediately contacted the authorities and advised her to document everything. Her condo became a fortress, her life a series of calculated safety measures, different coffee shops, alternate gym routes, and careful social media absence. The tension was exhausting, but Madison found strength in action, reclaiming control of her world piece by piece. Weeks later, the restraining order was officially granted. Andrew did not contest it. His current address was listed with his parents, and for the first time, Madison felt the weight of true relief. The police assured her any violation would lead to immediate arrest. For the first time in months, she could breathe. Madison also received updates from Rachel and Emma. Emma had decided to pursue her $5,000 under claims of fraud and pattern-based behavior. Madison silently cheered. Justice, though slow, was catching up to Andrew. Amid the legal storm, Madison turned inward. Therapy sessions became her sanctuary, a space to untangle the emotional knots left by betrayal and manipulation. She began to process the anger, the disbelief, and the exhaustion, understanding that healing was a journey, not an immediate fix. Then came David. On their second date, David insisted on splitting the bill. Simple, unassuming, yet profoundly liberating. Madison felt a spark of something she hadn't felt in a long time, genuine partnership without fear of exploitation. In quiet moments, Madison reflected on Andrew's pattern, the calculated steps he had taken with multiple partners. The fear and moral outrage remained, but it was tempered by clarity. She had recognized the scheme, defended herself legally, and built safeguards against future harm. And so Madison's life moved forward, cautious but resilient. She reclaimed her apartment, her routines, and her sense of self. The story of Andrew Robinson would remain a dark chapter, but no longer the one defining her. She was no longer a victim of manipulation. She was Madison Garcia, 31, independent, cautious, but unbroken. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she allowed herself a small, quiet hope. Love could be honest, life could be fair, and control, once lost, could always be reclaimed.